And I just love how weak this kick is. It's a great demonstration that 3PO is such a coward that it can only muster up this dorky little kick. Okay, welcome to Shot by Shot, where I analyze every shot of an entire movie. We are moving on to Scene 5 of the original Star Wars. Here the audience gets its first look at the Tatooine planet after the battle of the opening scenes. So here we get this wipe transition, which is quite bizarre. The vast majority of films would just cut to the next scene. This is slightly influenced by Akira Kurosawa, which Lucas takes quite a lot of inspiration from in this film, such as this wipe from the Seven Samurai. It helps maintain the flow of the action. And then we've got this contrast here from the previous scene. Before we were in these clean sci-fi halls, and now we're in this very dusty desert. Something interesting to note about the theatrical version is that for everyone viewing this back in 1977, the desert scenes had a lot of grain on them due to the harsh conditions of filming. But this was carefully restored for the special edition remaster, so all the modern versions wouldn't be as grainy as this.
It was the first 2 weeks of shooting. We'd run into a lot of weather problems. The sets had blown down. I didn't get everything shot. It was a disaster.
And the movie continues this great pacing here. Instead of having some scene where the droids crash land with the thing tumbling down and they sort of stumble out of the pod, they're already out exploring the planet. We don't need all that stuff. We already know what's going on just with this shot here. And we have this beautiful zoom as it moves from this extreme long shot towards the droids.
How did we get into this mess? I really don't know how.
And with this line, 3PO just has absolutely no idea what's going on and is quite ignorant of the whole situation. This adds to the comedic element of the character.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
So the film continues to add these human elements to the droids, like this ability to suffer. And with It's Our Lot in Life, like you really get these interesting ideas here of the droids feeling like slaves. And we get a sort of hint of these central themes about destiny as well.
I've got to rest before I fall apart. My joints are almost frozen.
Again, rest. Like a robot in real life doesn't need rest, so the script continues to make 3PO more human. And we can really feel with these lines how depressed 3PO is. It's stuck in this desert, it doesn't know what's going on, and it's falling apart. This makes the audience wonder how they're going to get out of this one, especially with the Empire on their trail. And then we got 3PO looking out here, and we cut to this shot, so we know it's a POV. And with this shot, we really feel like we're stranded in the middle of the desert. It's a beautiful capture of these swirling dunes, creating this very rich atmosphere.
Excellent place this is.
And with this line as well, it really emphasizes that they're stuck in the middle of this vast desert. It's a very classic scenario for characters to find themselves in. And this close-up of R2 is a great demonstration of the art design. You can see all the sand all thrown upon it. It's very immersive. What's funny here is that R2 does this cheeky whistle to 3PO. It continues to add that rebellious edge to R2. And like you got 3PO turning here like it's offended. You got this subtle comedy going on.
Where do you think you're going?
And R2 just goes off without 3PO's permission, like in scene 4 with its back turned here. And with this line,
Well, I'm not going that way.
it shows 3PO he's quickly skeptical. And this is where a moment of conflict starts between the two droids.
It's much too rocky. This way is much easier.
So 3PO is not trusting R2's judgment and wants to lead the situation. And R2 here continues to beep and boop, showing that they're having this back and forth conversation still.
What makes you think there are settlements over there? Don't get technical with me.
So this line shows that R2 knows what it's doing and has the information, but 3PO is unable to be convinced. You sort of got this tension here.
What mission? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and at this point 3PO seems to be quite dumb, as R2 has already mentioned about the mission in Scene 4. But for the viewer, this line also gives us another reminder of the importance of R2's mission. And like 3PO, we sort of don't know what this mission is, so there's sort of a dual purpose to this line. And R2 beeps and turns its head, showing, it's had enough of 3PO's complaining. It's done this before in the previous scenes. It's just like, nah, I've had enough of you, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
I've just about had enough of you.
And this argument is reaching its climax, like with Leia and Vader's argument. And you can see 3PO looking sharply down at R2 here with a hunched back. Just with the body position, you can see it's frustrated with R2.
Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. And don't let me...
And 3PO just goes up and kicks R2 here. It's a silly moment here, but it also visually demonstrates what's going on. If audience members weren't paying attention to the dialogue in this scene, such as kids, they'll know just from this kick alone that the two droids aren't getting along. And I just love how weak this kick is as well. It's a great demonstration that 3PO is such a coward that it can only muster up this dorky little kick.
Let me catch you following me, begging for help, because you won't get it.
This is an incredibly ironic line, considering how 3PO has demonstrated in the opening scenes how R2 is actually a lot braver than 3PO. And we see 3PO walking off on its own away from R2. It's not listening. It's turning its back and walking away, continuing to demonstrate an arrogant and almost a little bit childish attitude as well. And we've got R2 having a moment of turning its head back and forth. It shows that R2 knows it has to go a different way for this important mission, but at the same time it wants to stick with 3PO. Then poor R2 lets out these high-pitched beeps, a bit like crying, trying to convince 3PO to come back. It shows even with their differences, they are still friends.
No more adventures. I'm not going that way.
And it's decided. 3PO turns and continues its path, confirming that it's not changing its mind. And no more adventures is another ironic line, as 3PO throughout this film will be whisked away on an epic journey. So, yeah, and it's interesting. Even though 3PO seems like a very flawed character here, R2's relationship shows that there's a bit more to the character. It isn't just this sort of really nasty gold droid. And we'll see its nuances throughout this movie. And the audience sees R2 zooming off in the other direction, confirming that the droids have split. And we've got this cute little hum from R2 as it goes on its way. Little things like this add charm to the character. And we've got another wipe here from a different angle. This shows that it's sort of moving to a different location, even though it's still desert. And it's become this sort of iconic element of the series, these wipes. even showing up in modern Star Wars content like The Force Awakens and The Mandalorian. I think it's because this effect is so unusual. Barely any other films do this. And we've got this beautiful image here of this very sort of brown desert, sort of beige desert, and a sky with the Skull droid continuing this magical aesthetic. Notice how there's a lot of space here. Timing-wise, the audience has had a lot of action up to this point, so there's this sort of chance to breathe in a sense. And the opening scene's already shown a lot of action, so even if you have a low attention span, you know that there's still more to come. It isn't going to stay at a slow pace. And this theme of wandering around in the desert alone is used in many films, and even in films today, like in John Wick 3. And then sort of go over here, and then what the heck? You've got these bones of some creature just laying there on the ground. It doesn't seem like any recognizable animal. This foreshadows that there are all sorts of exciting new creatures in this universe. It sparks your imagination on what this thing could have looked like.
That malfunctioning little twerp. This is all his fault.
This line really demonstrates 3PO's character flaws, as it's blaming others even though that it's 3PO's fault that it's lost.
He tricked me into going this way, but he'll do no better.
And notice how C-3PO says he to refer to R2, referring to R2D2 in a male sense. The script continues to humanize these droids to the point where they're not much different from human beings on the inside, even though they may have a robotic appearance. Then we've got this weird flashing polygon in the distance. Even though it's very small in the frame, it's very clear, as it contrasts heavily with the unsaturated desert scenery. The flashing also helps draw our eyes as well.
Wait, what's that? A transport. I'm saved.
So it seems that 3PO has found the oasis in the desert, so to speak. A very classical theme associated with ancient Egypt. But instead it's a transport, a sort of a sci-fi version of it. It's a way out.
Over here!
So we have both 3PO and Polygon in the frame, showing that there's an interaction between the two. And this line over here, it's a very natural expression, you know, considering that this may be 3PO's only way out of this desert.
Hey! Hey!
And 3PO screams towards the transport with this great extreme long shot with 3PO and the bones. But then, after all the screaming, it just wipes away. It leaves the audience with a cliffhanger, like almost literally here. Has the transport found 3PO, and is the transport friendly? And where will it take the droid? So in the next scene, it makes the audience wonder and keen to find out what happens next. So yeah, that's the end of scene 6. Join me in the next scene where we see R2's side of the story and his first encounter with the Jawas.